Welcome to episode 82 of Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
In this week's movie, Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise must square off once again with an old adversary, when Khan Noonien Singh commandeers a starship, and with it, a new technology called Genesis, which is intended to bring new life to dead planets. Having defeated Khan once before, Kirk now faces an older and more emotional opponent. But can he repeat his victory? Or will the tables now be turned?
Humor. It is a difficult concept. It is not logical.
We learn by doing.
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
I'm fine here, just doing and learning,
Humourless.
as always.
It's a response you often get, isn't it, when you try and crack a joke?
It's deadpan, it's a type of humour.
It's dead, that's for sure. It should be down the pan.
Yeah. This was a very different type of movie. Did you enjoy it?
It was a better movie than last week, I thought. It was more what I would consider old-fashioned Star Trek.
Okay. Old-fashioned, as in the ones you've just been watching?
Yeah.
Okay. I can understand why it's amongst the most popular of the movie, although I've not seen the rest of them for quite some time. But as I recall, this is about as good as it gets. Oh, it's a high standard. It's not like the rest are bad. Some of them are bad.
Yeah. Okay.
One of them is particularly bad.
Is it?
We'll see when we get to it.
How bad? Really bad?
Like, worse than last time.
So bad it's good?
Well, that's for you to decide.
Is it? I get to decide?
For yourself.
For the entire...
For yourself.
Okay.
I will make up my own mind once again on a fresh viewing. But anyhow, Wrath of Khan is a good one. This is what I watched before I went to meet William Shatner.
Yeah, you told me that if I was going, and as we know, twice I was meant to be, missed out, that I should watch Space Seed first.
Yes.
And I did.
But then you didn't
But then
see
I didn't
this.
go, yeah.
No. It was the director's edition, or director's cut that I saw when I saw Shatner. This week I've only watched the original theatrical edition.
Same here.
But we'll note the differences towards the end of the
You
podcast. I will. I've written them down.
Okay. Anything you want to say before we begin?
Nope. Let's
Do the socials.
Oh, okay.
Get them over and done with.
No one's waiting for an hour and a half to hear them. Okay, we're at Trek Podcast on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. We've got the website posts up at astartrekpodcast.com, and we're on YouTube with each and every episode, provided the censors allow. Please leave us your thoughts, reminiscences and complaints in those locations.
Catch us on Snapchat.
No. Shall we get into this?
Let's crack on. Familiar theme music this week.
Yeah, I've got some music type trivia for later on, so I'll explain that towards the end of the show.
Are you going to leave me waiting?
I can tell you now if you want, it's not that interesting.
Go for it.
So basically the guy who did the music for the previous movie was too expensive, so they got this young guy called James Horner.
Oh, okay. Wonder whatever happened to him.
Oh, who knows? I think he died in a plane crash or something. Yeah.
That's what.
Yep. Nothing happened between this and that.
Fair enough. And talking of dying, there's a theme, a thread that runs through this movie of aging.
Well, there's an awful lot of death that happened right at the start of the movie.
Well, you'd expect that on Kirk's crew.
Well,
under
we
Kirk's
don't
command.
see Kirk, do we? So we start off with the captain's log, but it's not Kirk that's dictating it, is it?
No, it's a female voice. 8130.3.
So it's a training mission on board Starship Enterprise, apparently, going to Gamma Hydra in Section 14. Everything's normal, but they're near the neutral zone.
And as I prefer, we start on the bridge.
Did you see the wee sign up the back that said no smoking?
Nope, didn't see that.
Only appears in this training bridge, but
Okay.
Apparently Gene Roddenberry had a bit of a fit about that and insisted they remove it, even though he wasn't really involved with the production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in the 23rd century, you wouldn't be smoking.
They're not going to be smoking in 100 years from now.
No one really smokes anymore, do they?
Hardly, and it's not cool anymore.
No, it's not. Disappointing. Used to be a good way of making yourself look cool. Anyway, we are on the bridge. We see familiar faces, including Spock, Uhura, Sulu, but when the captain spins around in the captain's chair, giving instructions, we see It's a female with a Vulcan ears.
It's a young Vulcan, yes. She is apparently in command, and she receives a distress signal.
Yes, which the captain puts on speakers, and we hear a man from the Kobayashi Maru informing them that they have lost all power, have casualties, and their hull has been penetrated.
Hate it when that happens.
Yep.
So before deciding whether to save them or not, the young captain brings up some data to find out just how many people's lives are at risk here.
It is a nearly full ship with about 400 on board, I think.
300 of which are passengers.
Oof. Is that better? Or
Well, they're
worse?
civilians. You probably need to save them a bit more than if they were just military folks.
Yeah, not signed up for this.
Yeah.
She calmly tells Sulu to plot an intercept course, and he reminds her about the potential outcomes of entering the neutral zone.
She proceeds regardless.
She's very confident.
She is, and as soon as they enter the neutral zone, she receives a warning from Spock.
Yeah, they have violated the treaty that's in place.
Presumably the peace treaty with the Romulans or the Klingons.
Yeah.
It's Klingon ships that suddenly attack.
Yeah, she ignores this and prepares to beam the survivors aboard, but just then, as you say, some Klingon ships begin to close in, and so she activates shields and calls for battle stations.
Yes, but they're overwhelmed by these 3 ships, and she calls for a retreat. However, that proves impossible.
Yeah, they come under attack, and she gets all her crew killed.
No, they leave in escape pods, and then they get killed.
Do they?
Well, a lot of the ones on the bridge die. We see,
I'm talking about the ones.
yeah,
on
we
the
see
bridge.
Sulu, Uhura, Spock, McCoy. They all die.
Bold, killing off all your main characters. In the
Were you
first.
surprised to see this when it happened?
I was not in any way surprised whatsoever. That I didn't in any way think that this was real. There was no.
Well, at what point did you realise it wasn't real?
I don't know. I had a feeling right from the very start.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I wasn't fooled at all.
Okay. So, having abandoned the ship, we hear Kirk enter through, as the back of the bridge opens up, he's coming through from some kind of observing.
Yeah, this was all a drill,
Yeah.
a training exercise.
And they're not on a real ship.
No, and in fact, you're asking me when I realised that, but the initial log says they're on a training mission.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't interrupted by a genuine emergency.
No, but you know that they're. Yeah, no, I think that must have been why I knew it wasn't real.
Twigged.
Yeah.
Okay. Kirk tells Saavik that the Klingons... Sorry, I should say Saavik's the young Vulcan captain. We come to learn her name. That the Klingons do not take prisoners, so these folk in the pods will all be dead.
Yeah. We should discuss here the fact that she is, and I don't know much about the military or any of that type of thing, but she is constantly referred to as Mr. Saavik.
Yes.
I thought at first it was just a
woke leftist conspiracy.
Well, no, I wouldn't have thought. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it's 1982. That's probably not what's going on here.
Apparently it is the correct usage in a military vessel like this. So superior officers would call everybody Mr. It's not a gendered term.
Fair enough.
But they never do it to Uhura.
No, but she isn't. See, I don't know how is she getting up the.
I suppose maybe once you get to lieutenant or something,
Yeah.
you're no longer. I don't know. But yes, it's just, it's her. Essentially, it's a rank thing.
In any case, Kirk asks Saavik if she is going to stay with the sinking ship, but she complains that it wasn't a fair test of her abilities, as apparently there was no way to win.
Indeed.
Kirk, however, amuses himself by pointing out that dealing with death is just as important as dealing with life, which he obviously doesn't find very funny. I'm not sure if I agree with that.
I'm not sure it was a joke. You think it was a joke?
No, I don't think it was a joke, but I think he was amused at teaching her this lesson.
Okay, I understand. She wanders off anyway, so Kirk gets to speak with Spock and McCoy, who wants some accolades for his acting job and his death scene.
Yeah. I think McCoy asks if it would not have been easier just to put an experienced crew on board.
Well, yeah, so that's not referring to this test, I think he's talking about for the Enterprise.
Yeah.
So there's obviously some kind of idea that it'll be crewed by cadets, as we come to learn anyway. But Kirk says space travel is a game for the young, and once he leaves Uhura, I thought feigned offence, but maybe she actually was offended. It wasn't 100% clear.
A bit of both.
Yeah.
Probably realises she's not young, but doesn't particularly like that to be pointed out or to be reminded of it.
Indeed.
So this is like the first theme, isn't it? The first indication of the theme of getting older and aging and time passing and how they're dealing with these changes.
That's right.
In the corridor, he bumps into Spock with an opening gambit that he thought he was dead.
Yes, that's foreshadowing, I believe.
Before assuming he wants to know what he's going to do with his cadets.
Yes, and they talk about how Kirk handled the test when he was a cadet, with Spock noting he had a unique approach.
He also failed it twice. So.
Yes.
Kirk then thanks him for the birthday present he receives, a Dickens book.
Yes, A Tale of Two Cities.
But we get the feeling that he is not too happy about the passing of another year.
Well, I guess not. I think age is weighing on him.
Yeah.
We then get a call for Spock from the tannoy. He has to head over to the Enterprise, of which he is now presumably the captain.
As Kirk heads home, this is great to see. I like this.
This was a great scene. The scene in Kirk's house.
It was very good. And, I don't think over the entire show, we've not seen any of them, have we, in their...
Well, we saw Spock on Vulcan.
Yeah, okay. Yes, we did.
But not in his house, but
no,
on the planet, yeah.
Apart from that...
We didn't get to Earth.
Nope, we didn't.
Not real Earth, yeah. Well, we did, but not in their own time period,
no.
Yeah. It seems to be Kirk's birthday. That's why Spock's giving him this book, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a pad which is overlooking, I assume, is it San Francisco Bay?
I think so. Well, Starfleet Academy's in San Francisco, so that would make sense.
And it's decorated with model ships and weapons on the walls.
And antiques and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite the pad he's got.
Indeed. Seems to be what he's into.
Yeah, I bet the women can't resist it when they're there in his lair.
Look at my musket.
They never resist. They never resist. It's the implication.
Okay.
I mean,
that's a different show altogether.
They wouldn't want to resist, but if they tried to resist, they wouldn't because of the
implication. Yeah, it's a different show.
Only Sunny, yeah.
McCoy shows up at the door with his own birthday gift for the captain. Or Admiral, as he is now.
Yeah, some illegal Romulan ale and a pair of antique spectacles that are suited to a man allergic to Retinix 5.
Yeah, I presume that's some sort of eye-fixing drug.
Must be, yeah.
That'd be really upsetting if you're allergic to that.
Yeah.
Said we've solved blindness, but not for you.
Yeah. Another, obviously, not so subtle reference to him getting older.
Indeed.
Then, with the formalities over, McCoy has a go at him about this sullen mood he appears to be in.
Damn it, Jim, what the hell's the matter with you? Other people have birthdays. Why are we treating yours like a funeral?
Bones, I don't want to be lectured.
What the hell do you want? This is not about age. And you know it. It's about you flying a goddamn computer console when you want to be out there hopping galaxies.
Spare me your notions of poetry, because we all have our assigned duties.
Bull. You're hiding. Hiding behind rules and regulations.
Who am I hiding from?
From yourself, Admiral.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
Jim, I'm your doctor, and I'm your friend. Get back your command. Get it back before you turn into part of this collection. Before you really do grow old.
Maybe you can tell me, I would have thought, just like perhaps the police force and military, is there not a standard retirement age?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
I think even these days pilots...
But I think Kirk's whole thing, even in the previous movie, is he doesn't like the fact that he's been promoted to Admiral, but it's like natural career progression.
Yeah.
I really liked with that scene, they're talking about age and getting older, and you've got the ticking clocks in the background, giving this, you feel like time is passing.
Yeah, a little bit like the Doc Brown's place.
Very clever.
Yeah. We
then take a bit of a left turn and head off to a different starship.
Where we have a Chekhov log, the first ever.
He's now the first officer, he's a commander.
Wow.
There must be a shortage of decent officers in the...
Yeah, he doesn't deserve that.
Starfleet.
He's not that type of... He doesn't have the minerals for that.
Well, maybe he's grown some since we last saw him.
Possibly.
Maybe since he got his hand injured in the first movie, he's like dug down. He's like, I must get off this back of the ship thing. Right.
8130.4.
Yes, they're on an orbital approach at SETI Alpha 6. Does that ring a bell?
Sort of.
If you just watched Spacesuit, it might.
Right. I didn't.
Okay, well, it'll be revealed.
It will.
This is related to Project Genesis. They are continuing their search for a lifeless planet which will satisfy the requirements of a test site for the Genesis experiment. This sounds like some kind of nuclear bomb or something. This is maybe like when they used to test them out in the Atlantic Ocean and stuff like that.
Sure.
Pacific Ocean.
On the bridge of this ship, it seems like it's been a near fruitless task, but Chekhov has found a planet with just a tiny reading and tells his captain, who in desperation decides to speak with the project leader, a Dr. Marcus, about the possibility of transplanting whatever this life form, this reading.
They're disappointed to get this reading. They wanted a completely barren planet. Chekhov tells him, however, that Dr. Marcus' response is inevitable.
Yeah, in the space station, the lab, Marcus is, as Chekhov thought, rather sceptical, but against her better judgment, tells the boys to go down and investigate.
Yeah, I think she thinks it's unlikely to be something that can be transplanted so easily as they think, but let's find out.
Mm-hmm. A little later, we see her walk and talk with a colleague who tells her that Genesis will have her remembered alongside Newton, Einstein and Surak.
Is he the guy from that one when they fought with Abraham Lincoln?
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah, the Vulcan guy. I think she thinks he's mocking him because she says she doesn't even get respect from her offspring, and we then learn that he is her son, David, who is nervous about Starfleet's involvement because the tech that they're working on could be weaponized by a military organization.
Mm-hmm.
He then talks about Jim Kirk, which is again a bit of a giveaway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he calls him an overgrown Boy Scout who Marcus used to be friendly with. I immediately took the note, he banged her, didn't he?
Yep, and this is his kid.
Oh, let's not give away that type of spoiler right now.
No, it's not. That's just what you assume when you watch this scene.
She says that Kirk may be many things, but he's not a Boy Scout. She likes a bad boy.
Ooh. Back at City Alpha 6, Captain Terrell and Chekhov beam down and are immediately concerned by the hostile landscape.
Yeah, it's very windswept. It's like a desert. They can see nothing. But they then spot some cargo carriers, some cargo containers, and enter to find an arrangement that shows that people have been recently living there.
It reminded me a lot of Mud's Women.
Yes. Very much. That terrain was like that, yeah.
Yeah. So inside these cargo containers, they find a tank where you see a creature, or at least there's movement in the sand that's in the tank, something's underneath it, which kind of freaks Terrell out a little bit.
It would do, yeah.
Before Chekhov uncovers the name of the ship, which causes him to panic.
What is it?
Botany Bay.
The SS, yeah.
Terrell's confused by Chekhov's concern, but leaves with him, only to find as soon as they emerge outside, they are surrounded with a group of hooded folk who look like the Jawas from Star Wars.
Yeah. Back in the bridge of the starship, the commander, I think his name's Kyle, tries to make contact with Terrell.
You think his name is Kyle? He appeared in so many episodes of the original series, Lieutenant Kyle. He was a regular background guy.
Yeah, I don't recognise his face.
Okay, well that's him. He's now a commander in the Reliant.
There you go. Yeah, he tries to make contact, but has no luck, obviously.
But rather than panic, he says, we'll just give them some more time.
Back down on this planet, they find themselves in another cargo carrier as one of
I think it's the same one.
Is it?
Yeah, because the creature's still there.
All right, yeah, you're right. As one of their jailers removes his mask to reveal himself to be...
it's Ricardo Montalban.
With a very 80s, early 80s rock star haircut.
It's very stylish.
Yeah.
He explains to Chekhov that he never forgets a face and that this is a matter of honour.
Yeah, indeed, that's after Chekhov explains to Terrell that Khan is a criminal and a product of genetic engineering from the 20th century.
We then get some good date information. So, Khan says he was marooned here by Kirk 15 years earlier, which is exactly in line with when that episode aired.
Was it?
So we're now back in line with the original series, which means this movie, despite coming out 2.5 years after the last one, is actually set 8 years later.
Yeah, that would tie things up then.
So they're now actually playing the right age again.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Khan is astounded to discover that Chekhov has never told Terrell this story about the marooning of the Botany Bay crew, and he's astounded to learn that Kirk's now an admiral, and I assume that in his mind, Kirk's encounter with Khan should be the biggest thing that's ever happened to him.
Yeah.
In fact, he overcame Khan.
Yeah, he's a narcissist.
Yeah. Kirk's greatest triumph, perhaps. But Chekhov insists that they were not stranded here on this lifeless planet. They were put on Ceti Alpha 5 and had a fair chance of survival.
What happened?
We get a big reveal now.
What's that?
Khan explains that they are on Ceti Alpha 5. You'd think they could count the planets. Ceti Alpha 6 exploded 6 months after the crew were stranded there, shifting their orbit and devastating the planet. Nobody came by to check on them, and only through his superior intellect have they been able to survive, and they haven't all survived.
Now, we discussed this at least twice, I think, in the original episodes, where at the end of the episode, the crew of the Enterprise say, it's fine, we'll sort it, we'll teach you, and we'll come back and we'll check on you.
Yeah, they never bothered.
And they don't.
Even, I think Spock said it would be interesting to see what kind of society they build.
Yes.
But didn't bother.
They don't bother their arses. They just leave and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Other more important things to do.
Yeah. Chekhov tries to speak up for Kirk at this point, but Khan suddenly has the realisation that they haven't come for him. That's not why they're here. He had assumed they were here, following up on his mirroring. Yeah,
he asked Chekhov why they are there, and when he refuses, he's introduced to the only remaining indigenous life form.
Did you like the way they picked the young ones out from between the scales of the adult?
It was disgusting.
I like that.
Yeah, it's the vicious bitey thing in the glass container, which Khan reveals has killed 20 of his people, including his own wife.
Which will be Lieutenant MacGyver's.
Yes, that was the one who fell in love with him and aided him in his escape, and then
helped him take over the Enterprise. Yeah,
and decided to go with him rather than. Yeah.
Well, that was her choice. Yeah, court-martial or go with Khan.
Mm-hmm.
So she's dead, so not appearing in this movie.
No.
Chekhov and Tyrell are told that the creatures will wrap around their cerebral cortex and render them suggestible before madness and inevitable death follow.
And we get a scene which is not the best in terms of the special effects. They put 2 helmets on them, stick the creatures into this, and we see them wiggling inside their ears.
It's actually a giant paper mache ear.
Was it? Yeah.
That they used, and apparently one day on set, someone thinking it was funny brought in a giant paper mache Q-tip.
Right.
A cotton bud sat next to it.
Yeah. Jokers there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wild in that
They did
place.
similar funny things like dressing up a chair as the short person who was on Paradise Island with Ricardo Montalban.
Right. Okay. Ah yeah. Banter. Great bunch of lads.
Oh, it's so funny.
On the back in the shuttle.
Well, actually, before that, the two of them scream, and Khan then starts to question them as the scene ends.
Yeah, well, he wants to know where Kirk is.
Yes.
So we're on the shuttle where Kirk is at this moment in time. He's with Sulu, McCoy, and Uhura, arriving at the Enterprise for his inspection, which he claims to hate. And I noted that at least they've got better uniforms this time.
They definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
And they stick with these.
Do they?
Yeah.
Throughout all the movies?
Yeah.
That Shatner's in?
I believe so.
Good.
Yes, Kirk's glad that Sulu's there because he's not sure the kids, by which he means the cadets, I presume, can steer. Implying that he's going to be staying on board the vessel, I guess.
No, yeah, I think they note that they'll be there for 3 weeks. It's a big ship.
Well, it is. They arrive and Spock introduces his crew of trainees, and Scotty makes a reference to having had a wee bout that McCoy pulled him through. So Kirk asks McCoy what the wee bout was, and he says shore leave. So I assume it's something to do with sex crimes.
Sex crimes, yeah. Well, without a doubt, yeah. The wee bout of the old murdering.
Yeah, and McCoy had to stop him.
Mm-hmm. Well,
eventually, that must be what they're referring to. There's no other. Otherwise, you just say what it was.
This crew of cadets also includes a Peter Preston.
Yes, the director's cut reveals him to be Scotty's nephew, but you don't actually get that information in this edition. Yeah,
it's been too much. You've got Kirk's boy, you've got... Yeah. I'm glad they didn't reveal that. I'm glad that wasn't a thing.
Yeah, it's his first training voyage.
And his last.
Well,
potentially.
Spoilers. As they depart, Savick, who we heard at the top of the show not understanding humour, has a laugh with Spock about how human Kirk is.
I don't understand this. What did that mean?
They're saying, it's so human.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
In engineering, Scotty confirms to Kirk that his cadets can handle a minor training cruise, as Kirk cuts the inspection short and says it's time to go, basically.
Well, there's no inspection. It's almost like I was expecting...
It's like he's faked his way on board, and it's like, now we're going to go.
No, but it's like, remember those TV programs used to get like the hotel inspectors, or even the shows where, what's it called, 3 in a bed, or the one where they go and stay at each other's guest house.
Wife swap?
No, it's 3 in a bed.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They all own
I don't watch the same
bed,
programme as you.
no, I don't. They watch it's bed and breakfast they have. They all go in competition.
Oh, so like come dine with me, but
that type of thing. Anyway, but they always get in. They always check out each other's. How dirty it is behind the. This is what it looked like. This was just the inspection. Amounted to Kirk sort of wandering about, going, "Yeah, looks tidy enough. Everything seems to be in place." It's not really an in-depth investigation into is everything working correctly here.
No, but he assumes it is because Scotty said it's fine.
Yeah,
we then get a nice exterior shot of the lights in the space dock and on the ship.
There are a number of nice exterior shots
but not
in the movie.
To the extent of the previous film. They don't overdo it.
But also by this point they'd already done that. Like these new effects weren't as new.
Yeah, so it's just like, here's the effect, let's move on. Mm-hmm. Up on the bridge, Kirk arrives as they're cleared for departure, and Spock allows Saavik to take the ship out on her first try.
This seems to startle McCoy and Kirk. We've got a little bit of Enterprise porn at this point.
As they pull out, yep.
Now, I'm a bit amazed here that anyone was nervous and that this is in any way skilled. What she does is say to Sulu,
take us out
at like half warp or whatever it is, right?
And
or half speed. And he goes like that, and he looks like a train driver, pushes it forward slightly, and then they move out slowly. I could do that.
I think how expensive it would be if they made a mess of it, though.
Without but there's no training here. Like, all she says is, take us out.
I think it's just the fact that she's in charge.
But they look really nervous, as if, are you going to manage this? Well, there was literally no skill involved in this at all. Even Sulu, who was doing it, there was no skill. It's like driving a train. It's just start it and stop it. And I don't mean the entire process. I'm sure before train drivers harass
me. We're banned from the West Coast Main Line.
I'm sure that, there's other parts to it, but the actual just moving forward and stopping isn't that hard.
It's like driving an automatic car.
Yeah. Well, it's even less, I suppose, difficult than that, because you can't go left or right. It's just
that's true.
Move forward. Yeah, very unimpressed with this apparent skill that's required here to do this.
I found the next bit a bit strange.
What's that?
So they talk about where they're going to go, and Spock tells Sulu to indulge himself. Why is he getting to choose?
Well, he's the one that's driving it, isn't he?
But there must be somewhere for them to go. You can't just say, fly to Jupiter. Or...
No, but you're not. I don't think they're going to an actual... It's just like going in a direction to do something.
Leave the solar system, or...
Yeah, always. Yeah, I mean, I think it's space, isn't it? There's not you can go anywhere you want.
Yeah. Yeah, but you think they would have an idea of where they wanted to go.
But are they? But they're not. They're just doing something in actual space, whether it be manoeuvres or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
That's my reading.
I assume it's a busier place than that. Maybe it's not.
Back to the space lab, where we find Marcus getting an unexpected video communication from Chekhov on the Reliant.
Come in, please. This is Reliant calling Regular 1. Repeat, this is USS Reliant.
Commander, we are receiving. This is Regular 1. Go ahead.
Ah, Dr. Marcus. Good. They're en route to you and should be there in 3 days.
En route? Why? We weren't expecting you for another 3 months. Has something happened?
Nothing has happened. CT Alpha 6 has checked out.
Then I don't understand why you're coming
We have
out.
received new orders. Upon our arrival at Regular 1, all materials of Project Genesis will be transferred to this ship for immediate testing on CT Alpha 6.
Who in the hell do they think they are?
Please be quiet. Commander Chekhov, this is completely irregular.
I have my orders.
Put him down, Mother. Who gave the order?
The order comes from Admiral James T. Kirk.
Knew it. I knew it. All along the militaries wanted to get their
This is
hands on this.
completely improper, Commander Chekhov. I have no intention of allowing Reliant or any other unauthorized personnel access to our worker materials.
I'm sorry that you feel that way, Doctor. Admiral Kirk's orders are confirmed.
Please prepare to deliver Genesis to us upon our arrival. Reliant out.
Did you wonder how Chekhov had escaped from Khan?
No. No. Fairly obvious.
Immediately after the call, we see Khan congratulating Chekhov, who warns him that Carol will attempt to contact Admiral Kirk. And I think you understand now that that's Khan's plan. He wants Kirk rather than Genesis.
For sure. On the Enterprise, in the turbo lift, Saavik joins Kirk, and after an awkward pause, Kirk inappropriately comments on her hair, and then looks her up and down. A little bit creepy.
Yeah. She struggles a little bit with his humour about the Kobayashi Maru test when she asks again.
Well, firstly, she pauses the lift.
That's a little bit weird. Anyhow, they get to the conclusion that it's a test of character. There's no correct solution. You can't beat the test.
And we hear the back and forth that we heard in the intro clip.
Oh, we do. As Savick leaves the lift, McCoy, who's a bit annoyed that it was stopped on its way down to him,
yeah, a grumpy old man,
he enters and makes the same remark about her hair, which at this point Kirk pretends not to have noticed. We get Uhura on comms telling Kirk there's a call from Carol Marcus, and he says he'll take it in his quarters, but I think McCoy knows who she is.
Yeah, he doesn't appreciate McCoy's quip about it never raining but pouring.
Yes, he says you should be careful about opening old wounds, and after he leaves, McCoy sends an apology out into the ether.
In his quarters, the connection is poor, and while she can't hear him, he understands that she is angry and accusing him of taking Genesis away from her.
Uhura reports that the signal was jammed at source, so Kirk has her alert Starfleet headquarters.
Yeah, he's obviously concerned.
Yeah.
Back to the space lab.
The staff there are very fired up.
Well, agitated, I think.
David thinks this is a typical play by the military, but I think his mother shuts him down somewhat, and the group remain concerned.
However, the fact is that the Reliant is on its way.
And they need to do something.
Spock's quarters.
He appears to be meditating. He's got different clothes on.
Does he?
A robe.
Right, okay. Maybe it's his loungewear.
It could be. He's talking to Kirk, who we initially just see in the mirror, which is quite a nice shot. And he tells Spock there may be a problem at Regular One, and they've now got orders to investigate despite their young crew. And he wonders whether the cadets can take the pressure. And Spock, in a very unhelpful way, says, well, some of them can, some of them can't. I guess we'll see.
I need more than that, Spock. I'm asking you if they can do the job. Yeah, well,
we'll see. Yeah.
We'll find out soon. Yeah.
Spock wants to hand command over to Kirk, but Kirk's reluctant. And we get a little exchange where Spock points out he doesn't actually have an ego. Don't worry about offending him. This is the thing that you do. Needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And you're my friend. The implication being that Kirk will now be in command.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
We skipped over all that. Fair enough. Back to the bridge. Sulu is ordered by Kirk to stop energizers. And Kirk puts out a ship-wide communication where he explains the emergency situation and that he is now in command.
Yes, and then he tells the cadets on the bridge that he knows this is unexpected, but he needs them to grow up sooner than expected. Yeah,
before he tells Scotty to head off at warp speed 1 to regular 1. Or at warp speed, I should say.
Yeah. Over on the Reliant, one of Khan's men, might have been Josham, certainly one of them, points out that by leaving Ceti Alpha 5, they have already defeated Kirk. They have a starship, and they can go wherever they like, but Khan is determined to be satisfied against Kirk.
Yeah, he has this obsession.
Yeah, it's the Captain Ahab thing.
That was addressed in a couple of episodes in the original series.
Yeah, absolutely. And also in the best of the Next Generation movies, it's very literally addressed.
Is it?
In Star Trek First Contact, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Picard gets called Captain Ahab by one of the other characters.
Sure. Back in the bridge, Uhura is, as usual, unable to communicate with Marcus.
Spock helpfully determines that they're either unable or unwilling to respond.
Yeah.
Useful information. They're 12 3/4 hours away, and Spock says, life would be easier, Kirk, if you could tell me what Genesis actually is.
So he invites him up to his quarters to do so.
Yes, and he has Uhura send McCoy as well, with Savick left in command. What happened to Sulu's rank? How's Savick ahead of Sulu?
Because Sulu's hopeless.
I suppose she's maybe on the command training.
Well, that's it. She's in the fast track.
Yeah.
And they know that he's just not going anywhere.
She's probably banging Spock.
Is that the only way that women can get to the top of their profession?
No, it's implied in the novelisation, I believe.
All right, okay, fair enough. In any case, Kirk proceeds to pass retinal security with the computer and then plays Marcus's proposal pitch that she made to the Federation.
What exactly is Genesis? Well, put simply, Genesis is life from lifelessness. It is a process whereby molecular structure is reorganized at the subatomic level into life-generating matter of equal mass. Stage 1 of our experiments was conducted in the laboratory. Stage 2 of the series will be attempted in a lifeless underground. Stage 3 will involve the process on a planetary scale. It is our intention to introduce the Genesis device into a pre-selected area of a lifeless space body, a moon or other dead form. The device is delivered, instantaneously causing what we call the Genesis effect. Matter is reorganized with life-generating results. Instead of a dead moon, a living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Fascinating.
The reformed moon simulated here represents the merest fraction of the Genesis potential, should the Federation wish to fund these experiments to their logical conclusion. When we consider the cosmic problems of population and food supply, the usefulness of this process becomes clear. This concludes our proposal. Thank you for your attention.
It literally is Genesis.
Power creation.
So 80s that the exposition here is presented as a pitch for funding.
Yeah.
You expect the bank manager to say, approved, but where's your collateral?
They are all impressed by the concept, and Kirk notes that they should be at stage 2 at this point.
Yes, but McCoy has concerns.
What's that?
He is concerned that this device could be used as a genocidal weapon.
Yep.
Spock says, yep, it could, never mind. And McCoy is then outraged at Spock's nonchalance in discussing the topic. Or, maybe not nonchalance, but indifference.
Well, I think, does Spock not say that it's always been easier to destroy than create?
Yes, but he doesn't show any emotional response. So McCoy's looking for him to be outraged by this, the concept of... So he's saying if you use Genesis on a planet with life, it would destroy that life and replace it.
Yeah.
And Spock doesn't seem concerned about that.
I like the fact that McCoy called the creation of the Earth in 6 days a myth.
Yes, the creation myth. Yeah, his dander's in fact up quite a lot until they get a report from Savick.
Yeah, before that, I thought I wasn't too happy with Spock. I think he tries to patronise him by telling him that his passion will be his undoing.
Yeah, but I think he's quite rightly concerned about this device.
McCoy is?
Yeah.
Of course he is, yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like he's thinking this is like the atomic bomb of their time.
Yeah.
And Spock's like, well, it's always the case.
You can see both sides. It is a scientific marvel.
Yeah, and McCoy cuts him off, or he cuts off the green-blooded inhuman as Savick communicates through.
Yes, there's a vessel closing on them. It's the USS Reliant.
Up on the bridge, Kirk retakes the captain's seat and gets the vessel on the main viewer as it slows down on Khan's orders.
As a fellow Starfleet vessel, there's no reason to be concerned.
Well, not overly concerned.
No, so despite Savick quoting regulations at him, Kirk doesn't raise shields.
No, he rightly tells her to shut it. I'm in charge now, stop with this. You've got no experience, be quiet.
Kirk and Spock discuss it between themselves and decide that the comms must be down on the Reliant. That's the only explanation that makes sense.
And doesn't consider them a threat, which is a mistake.
Indeed. Over on the Reliant, this guy Joachim notes that the Enterprise is attempting to communicate, and Khan tells them to make them eat static.
And he then grins as he quotes what he calls a Klingon proverb about revenge being a dish best served cold. What's he talking about? That's not a Klingon proverb.
Yes, it is.
What?
The Klingons say that.
Yeah, but it's a human proverb. They didn't invent it.
I think the human proverb comes from this film. Well, we have to look this one up. I don't know. But in any event, how on earth does he know what a Klingon proverb is? He's not met a Klingon. There weren't any, or he didn't have contact with any when he went into the ice, and he's been on this planet by himself.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Unless MacGyver's taught him about them.
MacGyver?
Whatever her name was. MacGyver's. Yeah.
Yeah. MacGyver. That'd be a good one with his penknife. Richard Dean Anderson.
And the killer ants.
Back in the Enterprise bridge, Kirk is perplexed and so orders a yellow alert which engages shields as Uhura gets a voice message claiming their chamber coil is hampering their communication system.
The chamber's coil readings don't match what Spock is picking up.
Yeah, he calls it bullshit.
Yeah. Also, I'm not sure that their shields did go up because there's contradictory information about that.
Yes,
through this scene.
Yes, I've noticed that, or I've noted that.
Yeah. So at one point they say the shields are up, then the next one it's raised shields, and then it's like their shields are down. It's like, what? What's happened is he's pressed it an odd number of times.
Yeah. You can't remember.
Is it on or off?
I'll do it one more time. Red wire, blue wire. In any case, the Reliant fires at them, causing panic and chaos below deck.
Yes, engineering becomes partially closed off as explosions tear through the Enterprise. And there now seem to be issues getting the shields raised, even though we've been told before that they're already up.
And Kirk tells Scotty to try auxiliary power because their main powers...
Why would that not occur to Scotty?
Well, that's what I've got to say, yeah. He would know, that's his job. I know what to do next.
Use auxiliary power?
Yeah. Oh, I never thought of that.
Oh, Captain,
I've got to try and plug in a battery.
I was winding the handle on the generator.
Back up in the bridge, the damage report shows the attackers knew where to hit them. And Kirk wants to know who and why, as Spock notes that they're unable to escape on auxiliary power.
This makes no sense. So Kirk, as far as he knows, is being faced by this crew of a Starfleet vessel. Of course they're going to know where to target another Starfleet vessel.
Yeah.
Anyway, he asks for all power to be rerouted to the phasers before the bridge rocks again, and we see an exterior shot of the Reliant circling around. Scotty now is down to battery power. and at this point Uhura says the commander of the commander of the Reliant is wanting to discuss the terms of the Enterprise's surrender.
There is a stunned silence before Khan appears on screen, to the astonishment of his old foe.
I think he's quite flattered that Kirk recognised him.
Yeah, he would be, yeah. And he's right to the point and tells him that he is going to kill him shortly.
Yes, he wants to be avenged, but before killing Kirk, he wanted to make sure he knew who had beaten him.
Now, the gallant Admiral Kirk offers himself, we've seen him do this before, offers himself if his crew can be spared. And Khan is open to this on the condition that all data related to Genesis is also delivered to him, and he gives Kirk 60 seconds to decide.
He begins this sort of charade where he has the crew clear out.
Yeah, clear the bridge, yeah. The senior crew, they remain.
Yeah. And he gets the Reliant command chart brought up, and as an impatient Khan calls for his answer, Kirk finds the code he needs to disable the Reliant's shields.
Is this the point where Kirk pulls out his specs again to have a look?
It's entirely possible.
Saavik, she doesn't understand what they are doing, but is told that there is a code which means that they can use their own console to effectively hack the Reliance and lower its shields.
Yes. Khan at this point tells Kirk he has no option but to comply, and it doesn't matter whether he's can be trusted or not. But Kirk says he will now transmit the Genesis data.
They realise too late on the Reliant what is happening. Before they know it, the Enterprise has damaged the photon control and their warp drive, forcing them to withdraw.
Indeed, but they note that the Enterprise is going nowhere and they can return.
Sulu praises Kirk, but he angrily claims that he did nothing except for getting caught with his britches down, and claims that he must be going senile. And I thought again, just like last week, it was nice to see that he has an element of self-awareness about him.
Yeah, he commends Saavik at this point for citing the regulations, which clearly they should have followed.
Sure.
And just then, Scotty appears in the turbolift holding the near-dead body of his nephew.
This is... okay, so...
Why did he brought him to the bridge?
Well, that's what I've noted here.
Go to sickbay.
Exactly.
And he was in sickbay.
And they all wince.
Yeah. We head to sickbay next, where the young man manages a few words before dying.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like a war zone down there. Lots of... It's like a war hospital. There's bodies lying everywhere.
Yeah, it's like a triage situation.
Yes.
And Scotty notes that Preston stayed at his post while others ran away. So where are these folk that ran away?
Yeah, he won't do that again, will he?
No.
Learned his lesson the hard way. Run.
Over comms, Spock advises that auxiliary power has been restored and impulse drive is available. Yeah,
so he's told to get to Regular 1 with best speed. They mention this twice. This is the first time I think I've heard of best speed.
As fast as you can get, yeah.
But it's an odd term.
Yeah, they use a lot of other odd terms like com video.
Yeah. Piccom and things, yeah.
It's like it's a new tech, it's better than radio.
Back up on the bridge, they approach Regular 1 but get no response on comms, so Kirk decides to go down and investigate along with McCoy and Savick, who I think, she's asked if she can come along.
When they arrive in the lab, life sign readings aren't clear on their tricorders, and McCoy is first startled by a rat and then by the dead bodies hanging by their feet from the...
It's got the feel of a horror movie here. Even the way that McCoy backs into it, you're always like, as a viewer, you're watching going, don't walk backwards in these type of situations.
And don't say you'll be right back.
And don't have sex. That's always a thing, McCoy. I mean, look what happened to Scotty.
He'll be fine. He notes that they haven't been dead long, as Uhura can be heard in the background trying to communicate. So Savick shows Kirk a locker that she's found and then goes over and tells Uhura to shut up.
Yeah. What do they find in this locker?
Chekhov.
Yeah, stuffed in. He's only a wee guy.
Yeah, he explains about the mind control, but says that they were able to overcome it, and Tyrell's there as well.
Yeah, they're both looking quite spaced. But he reports that Khan wasn't able to get the Genesis device even after torturing all the lab guys. So he went back to the Reliant, and Savick asks what happened to the crew.
Yeah, and she's told that they are marooned on City Alpha 5, where Khan had been.
Yeah, and he blames Kirk for the death of his wife.
Indeed. They find next the regular transporter room on this space station.
Yeah, and it's noted that the escape pods have not been used. So they assume, I think, that they must have used the transporters.
Yes. The fact that the power's alive also gives him that impression.
But Chekhov says, no, I don't think they did.
Okay.
But he might just be lying because he's a
double agent.
I mean, rat bag.
Yeah, or maybe he's overcome the mind control. McCoy notes that the dead people they saw bought enough time for Genesis and the Marcuses to escape, and the coordinates in the transporter are deep within the planet below.
Yeah, I don't think Savick, she doesn't see this to be logical.
No, but
because this is to be a lifeless planet, so...
Yeah, but Kirk notes that Phase 2 of the Genesis project was going to be tested deep underground, and he contacts Spock, who gives a very grim update. Yeah,
it's a damage report to find that they don't even have enough power to beam them back up at present. And as they speak, we see that Khan is somehow listening in.
Indeed.
He's bugged the place.
Well, perhaps. Kirk orders Spock to get back to the nearest starbase if he doesn't hear from them in an hour. And we get Uhura with the female, we won't leave you behind, protest. But Kirk shuts her down by pointing out that if they don't hear anything, there won't be anyone left behind to leave.
He then offers them a choice, and they all decide to beam down with him, including the quite cautionary McCoy.
Indeed. He doesn't like beaming anywhere.
No, quite right. On the planet, or the planetoid.
In a cavern, they find the group of Genesis scientists, and David starts fighting with Kirk.
Yeah, he's attacked very suddenly, but he obviously just overcomes him.
Yeah, quite easily.
Yeah, because he's Kirk and that's just a boy.
And suddenly there's another twist.
What's that?
Tyrell and Chekhov haven't freed themselves from mind control after all, and Khan's listening in.
Okay, before we get to that, they're fighting and he sort of gives David a little jab to subdue him.
Yeah.
And then he hears that it's David.
Yes.
Now we haven't, and there's an obvious, when he hears this,
he backs off.
There's a change in his attitude, yeah.
Another clue.
And then as you said, we find out that, yeah, Chekhov and Tyrell are baddies.
Indeed. Tyrell kills somebody, having been congratulated by Khan for his good work.
Yep.
And the others are told to remain still. And Khan asks Tyrell what the delay is, and he's told that he's sent the coordinates for the Genesis device.
At this point, Khan orders Kirk to be killed by Tyrell, but he manages to fight the urge. And what does he do?
Well, Tyrell manages to pull his own ear bug out and then kill himself.
Yeah, he turns the phaser, the gun, on himself before Chekhov collapses onto the ground, and we see the creature escape before being phasered by Kirk.
Yeah, why did the creature come out of Chekhov?
I have no idea. It's convenient, isn't it?
Yeah.
How would they have got it out otherwise?
It was wrapped around his cortical.
Of course it was. Remember the last time that happened to me?
Yeah, it took ages to get out.
Yeah, nothing worse than a sore cortical.
Indeed. Khan is surprised at this point to hear that Kirk is still alive after all the fighting, and Kirk calls him a poor marksman who's missed his target yet again.
Yeah, he taunts him about his inability to do his job.
But Khan responds by beaming up the Genesis device, while Kirk tries to taunt him further into coming down to face him one-on-one. But Khan says he's content to leave Kirk buried alive as he was once left.
And then, this must look like me to be a meme.
It's an iconic moment, yes.
Yeah, you have Kirk screaming, Khan, and his little angry Kirk face.
Yes.
I liked it.
It's good.
A little bit later, Saavik tries in vain to communicate with the Enterprise as Chekhov starts to come round, and Marcus asks who is behind all of this. She doesn't know who or what Khan is.
Yeah, Carol asks, and Kirk says it's a long story, but David notes they appear to have plenty of time.
Kirk, he tries to avoid answering the question by asking for food, and is surprised to hear that there is plenty in the Genesis room. He's surprised, he's surprised because they thought this was the Genesis room.
Yeah, but there's a lush, forest world in the next cavern over.
Yeah, Marcus laughs and says that it took Starfleet engineers 10 months to create this little room they're in by digging things out, whilst the Genesis room was built by them in just one day. David is then told to go with McCoy and Saavik to eat, which he understands is more a reason for them to have something to do, to allow Marcus and Kirk to talk.
I did what you wanted. I stayed away. Why didn't you tell me?
How can you ask me that? Were we together? Were we going to be? You had your world, and I had mine. And I wanted him in mine, not chasing through the universe with his father. Actually, he's a lot like you. In many ways. Please tell me what you're feeling.
There's a man out there I haven't seen in 15 years who's trying to kill me. You show me a son, I'd be happy to help him. My son. My life that could have been. It wasn't. What am I feeling? Old. Worn out.
Let me show you something that'll make you feel young as when the world was new.
Quite the reveal. So what do we think? You mean Kirk's just flying around the... was this a long-term relationship, or was he just...
Well, obviously it predates the original series because of the age. David must be at least 18, probably older.
He's never mentioned this before. How did the fans at the time take to this, that he's got this kid?
A convenient revelation. It's not the last time the show does it.
All right.
Yeah, you'll find it more. It kind of becomes a trope eventually.
I'm not sure why they've done it.
You had Kirk's surprise brother during the regular season.
Yeah, brother's fine, but I mean, a son, like, I don't understand, unless you're going to use this and develop it going forward, it's
more emotional stakes, isn't it?
He then gently takes her outstretched hand.
And up on the Reliant, Joachim reports that they have impulse drive, and Khan is confident they are now more than a match for what is left of the Enterprise.
Back to regular, Marcus leads an astonished Kirk to a large, glowing underground oasis with waterfalls.
Avatar or something.
Yeah, it is. There's trees, there's light. He can't believe it took only one day, and she explains that, well, the matrix for it, which I imagine is the structure, that took a day, and the life forms, they developed, not in one day, but a far accelerated rate than normal. Even McCoy is impressed.
Indeed.
What does Marcus say?
I don't know.
Well, she asks Kirk, can I cook or can't I?
We get a brief shot of the Reliant Bridge where Khan's asking where the Enterprise is. Why is it not where he expects?
He's quite puzzled,
And back down in the cave, Saavik asks Kirk for the third time about her Kobayashi Maru test and wants to know what he did. And McCoy explains that Kirk's the only person, as whoever beat the test as a cadet.
Well, yeah, when you say beat the test, yes, sort of. He then admits how he did it.
Cheated.
Yeah. He reprogrammed the simulation, which he describes as changing the conditions of the test rather than than cheating.
He notes he got a commendation for original thinking.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in a no-win scenario, so I'll just change the scenario.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Savick notes at this point that he has never faced death, which is a lie, because every week there's at least 3 or 4.
Well, he certainly has, yeah.
Yeah.
He proceeds to communicate with Spock, who confirms that they are now ready to beam them aboard.
Which is much to everyone's bemusement.
Yes.
The rest of them thought everything was going badly wrong, while Kirk's just sitting there having a cigar and calling Spock at the appointed moment.
So up on the Enterprise transporter room, they arrive back, but Savick is initially surprised, as Spock had previously said it would take them days.
Yes, but she's referred to Regulation 46A.
What's that?
If transmissions are being monitored during battle, no uncoded message should be sent on an open channel.
Ah,
so
sneaky.
Kirk and Spock were at it, a bit like in the episode with the Romulan commander.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Nice exterior shot. We see the Reliant hiding at the opposite end of the planetoid.
Yes, and Spock reports to Kirk in the corridor that they have partial main power, which is the best they could do in 2 hours.
On the bridge, battle stations are called, and on the screen they get a graphical image of the Reliant as Spock admits it will be able to outrun and outgun them.
Yes, but there may be some tactical advantage if they can get to the nearby Mutara Nebula.
However, Savick points out that shields will be useless and they won't have visuals in there.
But Spock notes that'll be the same for both. That'll level the playing field.
Sauce for the goose.
We then get the crew going to work silently, buzzing about all over the Enterprise, and Khan then discovers his adversary.
Yeah, he spots the Enterprise and anticipates the showdown.
He realises that the damage isn't as bad as he'd been told as well.
Mm-hmm. On the bridge, Spock estimates penetration of the nebula in 2.2 minutes, but the Reliant is closing in.
Joachim on the Reliant is concerned that they'll lose the Enterprise if it gets to the nebula, so a warning torpedo is fired.
And it's close to a direct hit. I don't think it causes that much damage.
No, Savick notes it was close, and Kirk reckons Khan must be keen for them not to enter the nebula. Spock says they're a minute away.
However, they do notice that the Reliant is reducing speed as they aren't keen to follow them. And so Kirk communicates across to his nemesis and taunts him into following them.
Indeed, as I've written, Khan, duly taunted, orders Joachim to enter the nebula over his protestations.
Yes. They enter the nebula first, which causes a shudder, and the need to use emergency lights. And in the Reliant, Khan follows them. And it has been confirmed that shields don't work and speed has to be reduced.
We then get an exterior shot where the Enterprise passes above the Reliant, kind of at right angles, and spins downwards.
It's a bit of cat and mouse.
Yes.
Kirk has them where he wants them.
Yes, he tells Sulu, given that phaser lock isn't operating, to select a target, and they fire. And the Reliant fires back.
Yeah, I mean, after coming face to face like a couple of old gunfighters, they have this short firefight with both taking damage, but it looks like the Reliant is possibly worse off.
Maybe.
In engineering, Scotty informs Kirk that he has to take the mains off the line because of radiation.
Before he collapses and McCoy has to catch him.
Yeah.
Why is McCoy there?
I don't know.
It's helping out.
Making sure he's not up to anything dodgy with the new recruits, the cadets. There's probably a new female cadet in engineering that he'll be bothering.
No doubt. On the bridge of the Reliant, Khan is forced to lift a heavy piece of metal from Joachim, but he's dead. Yeah,
he dies in his arms.
Khan pledges to avenge him.
Like all good bad guys do.
Indeed.
On the bridge, a slightly abashed Chekhov asks Kirk if he needs help, and is told to man the weapons console. So I think obviously he's making sure that Kirk trusts him again and there's no hard feelings.
Kirk tries to figure out where Khan's going to attack from, and Spock notes that whilst intelligent, Khan is inexperienced and his patterns indicate two-dimensional thinking.
Yeah, and he also notes there are some sporadic energy readings nearby.
So Kirk orders a full stop and then a particular manoeuvre which sees the Enterprise pass above Reliant and circle around behind.
Yeah, he effectively hides it, or he hits the brakes and parks behind a bush or a tree.
Yeah. They fire torpedoes on the Reliant, which is hit, loses one of its nacelles and takes heavy casualties.
One of its what?
Nacelles, like the long bits that glow when they're doing warp.
Alright. Is that a proper word or is it a Star Trek word?
I don't know. I think it's proper.
Okay.
Kirk tells Uhura to send a message to Khan to make him prepare for boarding.
Yeah, and to surrender is mirroring what he had earlier ordered himself or suggested himself.
Indeed, and on the Reliant, having heard this message, a badly injured Khan says that the game is not over and to the last he will grapple with Kirk.
Yeah, he's very disfigured and badly injured. His face and it's all bloody in his hands, he's burnt.
He's in his last legs.
He does, however, have enough strength to activate the Genesis, which starts the countdown.
Indeed, on the Enterprise bridge, David recognises the Genesis wave when Spock brings it up and tells him there's a 4-minute countdown that cannot be stopped.
Yeah, because I think Kirk's initial reaction is to beam over and stop it, but David, this was nice as well. He sort of puts a familial hand on his chest.
Yeah.
In order to say, there's no point, listen.
Won't work.
Yeah, it won't work.
So Sulu is ordered to get them away as fast as possible, with Scotty not responding from engineering, and we see Spock leave the bridge. Yes,
for engineering, where he approaches the reactor room. Initially stopped by McCoy, he tells him he can't survive the radiation. No human can, which is a strange thing to say when he knows that Spock's not human.
He's half human.
Yeah, but still.
Anyway, Spock nerve pinches him and does a quick mind meld saying, "Remember," before taking Scotty's gloves and entering the chamber.
Scotty is screaming for him to get out. Up on the bridge, Saavik tells Kirk that 2 minutes 10 has elapsed and wants to know what is happening in the engine room.
There's no response. Oh, yeah, there's no response because Scotty's busy urging Spock to get out of the radiation chamber as he carries out some technical work on a large device.
He's opening something up and putting his arms in. It doesn't look safe, to be fair. Back up on the bridge, 3 minutes 30 has now passed, and they are 4,000 kilometres from the Reliant.
Ever the pessimist, Sulu says they're not going to make it.
Yeah, but in this case, he's supported in this opinion by David, who shakes his head in agreement.
Back on the Reliant, Khan gets his big finish, his final line, quoting one of the books that he's been reading.
Go for it.
He says, "No, no, you can't get away from hell's heart. I stab at thee. For hate's sake, I spit my last breath at thee."
Moby Dick?
It's either that or the other book that he had.
One of the Dan Brown ones.
Yeah. Back in the Enterprise, a cadet reports to Kirk that main power is online, and Kirk offers a thanks to Scotty and orders warp. And we see the Reliant explode as the Enterprise successfully flees the radiating sort of rings of energy. As Carol arrives on the bridge to see this Genesis explosion, and a jubilant Kirk calls the engine room to congratulate Scotty, but receives a more sombre response.
Yeah, McCoy tells him to get down there and to hurry. So Kirk realises something bad is
terrible has happened.
Yeah. He sprints down, knocking aside crew, which was good to see.
Yeah.
And he slides down the stairs rather than take them step by step.
He goes to open the chamber where Spock is, but
he's held back
by Spock, Scotty, McCoy, and then a weird third guy who comes in about waist high.
Yeah, making sure he can't kick at him, or I don't know what he's doing.
An anguished Kirk notes that Spock will die if they don't get him out.
And he's told he is already dead. As good as.
And by Scotty, yes.
Yeah. Through the glass, Spock pulls himself up and turns to face his captain, or his admiral, as we see his face is burned and blistering, and he's struggling to remain alive.
Ship. Out of danger?
Yes.
Don't grieve, Admiral. It is logical. The needs of the many outweigh
the needs of the few.
Or the one. I never took the Kobayashi Maru test. Until now. What do you think of my solution? Spock. I have been, and always shall be, your friend. Live long and prosper.
Oh, an emotional scene there. I'm sure there wasn't a dry eye in the cinema when this first came out.
That was rough.
Yeah.
Kirk himself is close to tears as Spock tells him of his friendship and his love for him before dying as the two men press their hands together through the glass. And Kirk shrinks to the floor.
Oh. There's a quick cut to...
Funeral,
yeah. Now, question here, on the ship, you would think you would go back to...
Nope, on the ship you die in combat, you get dealt with in combat.
Really?
Ways, I don't know.
What about his family? What do you want to do with the body? That fire him out into space?
No, it's like in the Navy, they just chuck you in the sea.
Yeah, if you're still in combat, that's different. If it's during war, where you can't return, but they've finished this now, so they can go wherever they want.
Nope, they have to do it here.
Okay. Kirk speaks of his great friend to the gathered, and while holding back tears, he claims of all the souls he met, his was the most human. Now, firstly, I don't know if that's true, but secondly, is that a compliment? Like,
yeah, he hated being human. He hated being considered human.
Yeah.
I think it's meant to be a compliment.
It is meant to be, yeah, but he doesn't really have a human soul either, does he?
Yeah. It's made worse as Scotty plays bagpipes.
Oh, anyone playing bagpipes, it's a horrible thing.
He's obviously not really playing them, there's no air in them.
Is there not?
No.
He blasts out Amazing Grace as Spock's coffin is fired out into space, and we see a glowing light in the distance.
Yeah.
Recreation room, I think it is.
I think it's Kirk's quarters.
Don't think so. Because David comes in and Kirk says, "Oh, I'll leave," as if it's a communal area.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's there. He's trying to read, but notices his glasses are broken. Then there's a knock at the door, and David enters.
Yes, he wants to speak to Kirk.
However, I don't think Kirk is in a chatty mood. He gets up to leave, but David wants to offer his support and also something more touching.
I poured myself a drink. Would you like it?
Lieutenant Savick was right. You never have faced death.
No, not like this. I haven't faced death. I've cheated death. I tricked my way out of death. And patted myself on the back for my ingenuity. I know nothing.
You knew enough to tell Savick that how he faced death is at least as important as how he faced life.
Just words.
But good words. That's where ideas begin. Maybe you should listen to them. I was wrong about you. And I'm sorry.
Is that what you came here to say?
Mainly. And also that I'm proud. Very proud to be your son.
Kirk is visibly moved by this and he embraces his son.
Yeah, he's very emotional. He stands and he hugs him, appreciative of what he has just said, especially at a time like this.
Indeed. And then we get a captain's log.
8141.6.
They're heading for City Alpha 5 to pick up the Reliant crew. They've just not done that immediately. Hope that they'll still be alive, I guess.
Plenty of time for that. No rush. Been there for so long.
But Kirk is wondering about the friend he's left behind and talks about possibilities and Genesis and life from death and thinks he must come back here sometime.
On the bridge, as they stare out at the new planet. Now tell me, explain what's happened here.
So the weapon went off on the Reliant, but it was close enough to the station and the moon that it's essentially created new life on the moon.
Okay. McCoy says that Spock isn't really dead as long as they remember him. And Kirk remarks, "It is a far, far better thing I do than I have ever done before. A far better resting place that I go than I have ever known." And Marcus asks if this is a poem.
Yeah, but it's not. It's from the book that Spock gave him for his birthday, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens.
McCoy then asks how he feels, and how does Kirk respond?
He says he feels young.
Yes, that's sort of topping and tailing the
it's an arc.
It is an arc, yeah. Although it's an arc that doesn't normally the arc goes in another direction.
Yeah.
But anyway,
we then get a bizarre moment where Spock's torpedo has somehow survived.
Yes.
Presumably multiple orbits of this planet before landing on the surface intact without any scorch marks or damage.
Yeah, that's the two things about this that annoyed me. one that didn't have the balls to kill off Spock and leave him dead in this movie. They had to hint that, you know what, he's not actually dead. That you should have been braver with that.
Yeah.
And as you say, also, they fired at a coffin. There's no way. And it's not just that it's undamaged, but it's lying just in the right angle on a flat surface, not halfway up and upside down the tree.
Yeah.
That would have been better.
No. Although I suppose other things could have grown around it if it got there before the full effect of the weapon took hold.
Possibly. But yeah, do you think that they should have left Spock to be dead?
I would have left it, but apparently it didn't test well with test audiences, so they had to put this bit in.
Yeah, test audiences aren't right all the time. They're often wrong.
They're probably not Star Trek fans.
No, exactly. No.
Anyway, will you hear Leonard Nimoy's voice one last time as he voices the closing space, the final frontier, etc.?
What does he say?
These are the continuing voyages of the Starship Enterprise, whose mission is to seek out new life forms and stuff like that.
Strange new worlds.
Yeah.
Civilizations. To boldly go where
no one's gone before. Yeah.
There you go.
And you get the end credits. What were your overall impressions?
Enjoyed it. Better than last week, and more like the Star Trek that I have become accustomed to.
So it would rank in, if you included it in a list with the top episodes, would it be in amongst the top?
Certainly top 10, I'd say. It's different. I mean, it's hard to judge against it because there are different characteristics, different things you have to consider, and leeway that you have to give when you're making a movie. But I thought that it nailed a lot of the things which are good about Star Trek.
Yep.
It wasn't too pretentious. You've got a baddie alien type, and they've got who's got some crazy plan, and some in this case also a justifiable revenge.
Yep. And you've got the crew basically playing the right character rather than weird versions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any particular highlights?
I suppose.
All of his performance.
Yeah, he's very moustache twirly, over the top, enjoyable to watch. Kirk, again, I thought it was good. I thought the humour was nice, the right balance this week, in this movie. The spectacles and things like that were quite nice. Again, the rest of them not doing too much. Uhura, Sulu.
Chekhov got a bit more to do.
He did get a bit more to do, yeah. Yeah.
Did you find Spock's death surprising?
See, this is hard to judge because I do know that he's in other movies. I do know he's not dead, and I'm aware that the next movie is called The Search for Spock. So, I didn't obviously buy into the whole death thing.
Did you think the death scene was earned?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was fine. Yeah. And like I said, I would like the movie to have been braver and leave it that leave it with him being dead.
No cliffhanger. Yeah.
No cliffhanger. Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
No, just an enjoyable movie. Could quite easily watch it again, I think. Yeah. I probably wouldn't put the first one back on. I'd watch
start with this one.
Yeah.
Does it make you want to watch Space Seed again?
Yeah, you should have probably told me just to refresh myself. It would have been, because I forgot all about MacGyvers. Yeah. So I could have probably watched that, yeah.
Okay. Right, some trivia.
Sure.
Originally released in June 1982, so the first Star Trek of my lifetime. Nicholas Meyer directed the movie. Previously Oscar nominated for his work on the screenplay for 1977's The 7% Solution. Meyer was not a prolific director, adding one further Star Trek motion picture to his resume along with films like Time After Time and Company Business.
In 1982, that would have been around about the time where T.J. Hooker started, and you could see Shatner looked like T.J. Hooker in this episode, in this movie.
Meyer was why are you talking about T.J. Hooker?
Because I'm thinking of you just said 1982.
Okay, I said 1982. Okay, you just interrupted Nicholas Meyer's big moment.
Sorry, I thought you'd finished Nicholas Meyer.
No.
Carry on.
He was a consulting producer on the first two series of Star Trek Discovery, and he has screenplay credits for two of the subsequent original series movies, and he also contributed to the writing for films like The Prince of Egypt and The Human Stain and TV series like Medici, and he's now 76 years old.
Very good.
Jack Sowards is credited with producing the screenplay from a story by himself and Harve Bennett. Sowards also wrote an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, as well as contributing to shows like T.J. Hooker, Bonanza, and The New Mike Hammer. Bennett went on to have producer and writing credits on the third, fourth, and fifth Star Trek motion pictures, as well as producing shows like The Bionic Woman, The Invisible Man, and The $6 Million Man. Sowards died in 2007 when he was 78, and Bennett in 2015 when he was 84. Ricardo Montalban played Khan. He was reprising the role from the original series episode Space Seed, and you can hear more about him on the podcast for that show. Also a Columbo connection, and I slipped the name of his episode into the discussion earlier.
Did you?
I did. You can listen out for that in the edit.
Okay.
Bibi Besh played Dr. Carol Marcus. This was her only Star Trek role, but she was a prolific actress both before and after this film, appearing in shows like The Golden Girls, Dallas, Murder, She Wrote, and ER. Sadly, she died in 1996, aged just 54 from breast cancer. She's also a kind of Columbo connection. She appeared in an episode of Mrs. Columbo.
That's good enough.
Merritt Buttrick played Kirk's son, David. He would reprise the role in the next film and also appeared as a different character in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. He also appeared on shows like Hill Street Blues, Chips, and Beauty and the Beast, and movies like Head Office and Wired to Kill, before his untimely death in 1989, aged just 29, having suffered from AIDS.
That's not good.
No. Kirstie Alley played Saavik. It was her only Star Trek role. Perhaps best known for shows like Cheers and Veronica's Closet, and films like Look Who's Talking and Drop Dead Gorgeous. Alley has had a long and successful acting career and earned a star on the Walk of Fame in 1995. She's now 71 years old.
I really... Oh, she was some something
this?
else. No, well, yeah, in this, but... she was lovely. Unfortunately, she's also a Scientology Maddie.
And Trump supporter.
Is she? Oh, God.
Paul Winfield played Captain Tyrrell, previously nominated for the Best Actor Oscar for his work on 1973's Sounder. He also appeared in the classic Star Trek The Next Generation episode Darmok, which is a great episode. It's about a species that only speak in metaphors.
Okay.
And his cousin, William Marshall, was the guest star in the original series episode The Ultimate Computer.
Ah, right.
Played Daystrom.
There you go.
Winfield had a long and prolific career, appearing in shows like Ellie Law and Murder, She Wrote, as well as movies like Mars Attacks and The Terminator. He died in 2004, aged just 64, following a heart attack. Judson Scott played Joachim, Khan's enigmatic colleague. He would go on to appear in episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Trek Voyager, and also appeared in shows like T.J. Hooker, The Dukes of Hazzard, Babylon 5, and The X-Files, and he's now 69 years old.
Are you going to mention Preston?
No.
Are you not?
No.
See, that's one of the few I recognised.
Can you tell me about him?
I don't know much about him, but he was in the Witch Mountain movies from the original ones, and I think I've not seen it, but I think he had a cameo in the Rock remake a few years ago. Witch Mountain. We've mentioned that before because starring Eddie Albert, who is a Columbo alumni.
Deadweight.
Yes.
We mentioned James Horner at the start of the podcast. He's a multi-Oscar winning composer, but he had an uncredited cameo in the film. He plays a crewman on the Enterprise at one point, and this was the first major film to feature his music.
Horner, that was his nickname.
Was it?
Nah.
There's a few other minor Columbo connections besides the obvious one with Montalban. Hubie Kearns Jr. and Bobby Burns provided stunts for both this film and episodes of Columbo, while Jim Alexander was the sound mixer for both this and 3 Columbos suitable for framing. Columbo Goes to the Guillotine, one of your favourites, Murder, Smoke and Shadows.
Pretty good.
And we talked about Lieutenant Kyle showing up as commander in the Reliant. The film shows a much more militaristic side to Starfleet, but we'd already picked up on that from the original series, so it's not really a departure. The reference to Scotty's wee bout that we correctly identified was about sex attacks was in fact a reference to a real-life heart attack suffered by James Doohan shortly before the movie was made.
Oh, glad to see he recovered.
Yes. Gene Roddenberry almost completely sidelined from the production of this film, apart from getting the no smoking sign removed from the bridge. Madeleine Roux, who played Marla McIvers in Space Seed, was expected to return for this, but by the time it was made, she was wheelchair-bound due to MS, and the character was written out instead.
They could still have used her.
They could have.
In the wheelchair, yeah. And it said like she'd been damaged but on the planet and couldn't...
Yeah.
No, she was...
I guess it just didn't work. Maybe she wasn't acting anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. William Shatner had to personally call George Takei and persuade him to take part in the film when he was initially reluctant. I'm not sure that would have helped. You can sit at the front, George. Many of the men supporting Khan were, in fact, Chippendales.
Were they?
Yes.
Okay.
One of your favourite groups.
Yep, love them.
The computer simulation of Genesis terraforming the dead planet into a living one was the first wholly computer-generated sequence used in a motion picture.
There you go.
So we mentioned Judson Scott, who played Joachim. Quite a sizable role. Uncredited.
That seems
This was due to an error by his agent, who waived his credit, believing there would be a chance to negotiate it again later, but there wasn't.
Agent was sacked the next day.
No doubt. In the director's cut of the film, there's 8 noticeable changes. So Kirk makes reference to losing a pair of glasses in the early scene at his house. We hear more about Scotty's relationship with his nephew when he's first introduced. There's more conversation between Chekhov and Colonel Marcus over comms from the Reliant to the starbase. There's a couple of extra lines from Spock and McCoy arguing about the genocidal capability of the Genesis device. A little bit more of the regular crew's discussion about what Starfleet is up to. Much more of Peter's death. A short scene in the Jeffries tube with Kirk telling Spock that David is his son. And a short exchange between Spock and Saavik about the human ego before the Enterprise enters the nebula.
Okay, I think that this week's movie benefited from not being as long. So
so there's 3.5 minutes of extra stuff.
Right.
Next time,
what have we got?
We're going to take a look at the third feature film, Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Another one that centres around a dramatic return for a much-loved character, but I won't tell you which one.
Just Gillian?
Oh, it could be.
Mud.
Right, wait and see.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye-bye.